Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Rules for Rebels. Today we are back with episode 83 of Side Hustle Tuesdays. Side Hustle Tuesdays is part of our weekly side hustling series where each week we share a different real-life true story of an entrepreneur or side hustler who started a business outside their 9-to-5 job with little to no money and skills and or equipment that they already had. I really like the side hustle story I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. It's about a college student who started a side hustle out of necessity because he was having a hard time finding jobs that worked around his class schedule. Today's side hustle is also about a service business. I like to touch on these stories because these days on YouTube and blogs, so many of the businesses we hear about are online hustles. And while service businesses sometimes aren't as sexy as an online business, one thing they have going for them is that typically they are something that somebody actually needs. Nobody truly needs your t-shirt with a made-up brand you slapped on it, but people out there actually do need window washing, power washing, their lawn mowed, and I love service businesses for that reason. There's already existing customers out there for you, you're not having to make your own market, and I think service businesses are oftentimes the best hustles to get started if you're looking to start bringing in money from day one. Today's side hustler is David Seppala. David was a senior in college from Tinley Park, Illinois. As a college student, David was working a lot of part-time jobs during school as his schedule didn't allow for full-time work. One challenge that he found was that his school was on trimesters, meaning 3 times a year his class schedule changed. As he got into his junior and senior years and needed to start taking certain classes to complete his degree, he found his school schedule oftentimes conflicted with his work schedule, and it caused him to lose 2 different jobs because he wasn't available the hours that they needed him. Well, David at this point in time had never heard of the term side hustle. This led him to seeking out just that, a side hustle. David lived with his parents, so he didn't need a ton of money, just some money for gas, an occasional textbook, and to go out with friends on the weekends. David started selling some of his old video games and stuff around the house on eBay and Craigslist. He made some money, but it wasn't consistent. He had a local used bookstore near him and tried selling books on Amazon FBA. He made a couple bucks, but found that most of the titles he found were selling on Amazon for a penny, not leaving much room for profit. David then began browsing various Facebook groups, Reddit, and forums about entrepreneurship. One day he read about a kid from the UK who started a business cleaning bins. In the UK it's bins, in the USA it's garbage cans. The idea immediately struck a chord with David because it seemed like something very low cost to start. It didn't really require any special skills aside from maybe a strong stomach, and it was something he could start doing right away that day. David brought up the idea with his father, who was supportive, but said he didn't really know if people would pay to get their garbage cans cleaned. It wasn't really a service he'd ever seen offered before, and he had a point. David still, however, thought there was something there. You see, David was a member of his household who had to take out the garbage and brought it back in, and he knew that the cans stunk. Another thing that made this idea very appealing to David was, in his mind, his family lived in a neighborhood with an association. The association rules stated that garbage cans must be kept in your garage, not in front of your house or on the side of your house. David knew a lot of neighborhoods had similar rules. David's family had a dog and 2 cats, and having poop bags from walking the dogs, as well as bags of used kitty litter in his garage, made his garbage can smell like death on a hot day. So with that in mind, David figured he didn't have much to lose. His dad had an electric power washer in the garage that he could use. David drove a Jeep Cherokee so he could use that to transport the power washer. So David got 500 flyers printed up and started delivering them around the neighborhoods near him. About a week in, he got his first call. It was about a half mile from his house, and David was to clean their can the first Tuesday of each month after garbage day. Over the coming weeks, more calls trickled in. About a month in, David had 7 accounts, which wasn't going to make him rich, but was $175 for all of about an hour or so of work. As he continued doing this, David found a lot of his jobs came from people approaching him while he was out working, asking him if he could clean their cans. This led David to come up with a better pricing structure. He would charge monthly clients $25 per clean, and on-call clients $50. This gave people an incentive to commit to a monthly cleaning, and he also found people who are only going to call once or twice a year are going to have dirtier trash cans requiring more work. David also decided to get some magnets with his business name and phone number printed on them so he could put them on the side of his Jeep, so when he was out cleaning, people could see him and call him for his services. About 3 months in, David has 24 accounts, bringing in about $600 a month, and makes a couple $100 additionally with one-off cleanings. While he's not getting rich, it's enough for a college student to get by on, and David enjoys working for himself and having more flexibility over his own schedule, doing his own thing as opposed to having a part-time job. David says because different neighborhoods are on different garbage routes, they have different pickup days, so he averages about 4 to 6 cleanings every day, Monday through Thursday, and he can do these cleanings pretty much any time from when the garbage gets picked up, anywhere between 8 and 10 in the morning, to about 7 at night when people start getting home from work. So it's pretty flexible on his schedule. David says because moving forward, David says he hopes to gain more accounts and grow the business. He says he thinks the hardest part is out of the way. When people see him cleaning their neighborhood cans, many people approach him interested in getting theirs done. His service is one that's needed and has value, just not something a lot of people think about. So just being out and about is a very good way to drive business. David upgraded his business a bit. After making a couple $100s, he retired his dad's electric power washer and brought a gas one. He said not only does it clean better, but it alleviates the need for plugging into somebody's electrical outlets on their house. The gas-powered power washer also allows them to clean the cans down by the curb and let the gross water run into the sewer by the curb as opposed to down somebody's nice driveway or lawn. David's also considering getting into power washing for driveways and decks. However, at least at this point in time, he's put that off. He said those jobs can easily take a good portion of the day, and he likes how his hustle now allows him to get in and out in about 15 minutes or less. Now, David does have 1 year of school left. He's just starting his senior year. He's majoring in accounting, and he said even if this business grew, he doesn't really have an interest in making this his full-time job or career, but he would potentially like to hire an employee down the road, probably another college student, and let somebody else run the day-to-day operations while continuing to manage the business. As far as challenges, David said, well, running a business isn't easy and getting customers isn't easy. He hasn't really experienced any huge major setbacks or anything like that. As far as advice he'd give to other entrepreneurs, he says that, well, in a perfect world, he'd prefer running a Shopify store or doing something online as opposed to cleaning out garbage cans. He says he thinks more people should consider a service business. Customers actually need services done. It's actually in many ways less intimidating than starting an online business. And he thinks that anybody who's looking to start getting money coming in the first month or so, nothing is going to beat a service business. Moving forward, David would also like to develop a web presence and set up a website, nothing fancy, just a landing page to show his services and prices, along with a way to contact him. He said he'd also like to use the next year or so leading up to graduation to grow the business and get some systems and processes in place, which would allow him to hire somebody after graduation to run the day-to-day cleaning. He figures at $12 or $15 per hour, the business could make about $250 a day. He'd pay an employee $60 or $80 and pocket, somewhere between $150 and $180 for managing the business. He thinks that's pretty good passive income and will be a nice addition to whatever salary he winds up making in accounting. One other thing I wanted to add, and I'm going to go off script a little bit here. I've been hearing more and more about this business, and I don't know if this business is going to start growing in popularity, but now that I've kind of had an interest and am kind of aware of this, I've kind of stumbled upon a few websites that actually make like truck systems on trucks or trailers that will allow this system to be kind of automated. So this stuff is all like prefabricated, but we're talking about like either in the bed of a pickup truck or on a trailer, you would have 2 hydraulic lifts that grab cans, turn them upside down over something that looks similar to an extra large dishwasher, and it's automatically going to steam clean, power wash, and sanitize these cans. And I've been seeing these things kind of popping up more and more. There's a couple companies out there that are starting to make them, but they're not cheap. I think the cheapest one I found thus far is about $16,000, going up to as high as I think almost $50,000. So this may be a good time to get into a business like this before the big services and things like that start gobbling up clients. And also, I like the way that David started this. At the time I kind of wrote this story, I knew nothing about these kind of larger scale automated machines, and I didn't hear anything from David about this. But for me personally, I think it would be quite a leap to shell out, $15,000, $30,000, $50,000, to buy a machine on a service that's maybe a little bit untested, or we don't really know the numbers, in terms of how much business you're going to have. So I think David's business is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, a great way to kind of judge the demand for this service. And if the business does wind up scaling to the point where David's needing to hire employees or needing to find a faster, more efficient way of doing this, I think getting one of those machines could be the next best option. And at that point, it's much less risky because you have the business to actually do the work and pay back these machines. Anyhow, guys, that's today's side hustle story. This is one that I think could be replicated fairly easily by any one of us. I think one other important thing to remember about side hustles is when starting a side hustle, you don't have to develop the next Facebook, and it doesn't have to replace your 9-to-5 job. Sometimes just making an extra $200 a week can make all the difference in the world to your lifestyle and future savings goals. Anyhow, guys, that's today's side hustle story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were inspired. And until next time, this is Rules for Rebels and Side Hustle Tuesdays signing out.